Now welcome to another lightning response video, where this time we're gonna once again try to do a couple questions, and we'll kick it off with this one from Mr. Andowilson, who asked, "Hey Thor, did you hear the rumor Chris Gore said? He is not a rumor guy, but he said he has heard from two sources that Disney is trying to sell Star Wars and getting no traction. Have you heard?" Okay, so yes, I have heard that he has said this, and I know every so often over the last few years this has come up that Disney is looking to offload Star Wars or Lucasfilm. So this isn't necessarily a new sort of rumor to come about, and for all we know, they've been trying to sell it for years and no one wants to buy it. That's entirely possible. Or they're really not looking to sell it, which is kind of the side I'm leaning towards. I am by no means an expert in this field. Obviously, I don't know the inner workings of a mega corporation like Disney or how they handle these franchises internally and what would cause them to sell or not sell. But from the purely layman's point of view, as a massive Star Wars fan who understands the power this franchise potentially has, I don't know that you ever want to sell it to the competition who might get it right. I think if you're Disney, you would rather throw it in the closet for a decade, and then after that time you brush it off and you try again, and you're probably going to drum up a ton of interest just because it's been so long. I think that is a sort of worst case scenario for Disney, not that they would sell it, but that they would just shelve it for a while and try to basically try over again in a decade. I just cannot see them selling to Warner Brothers or whoever else might be willing to spend the money, and who knows how much Disney would ask for it. I mean, if you are another company out there who could potentially afford whatever price tag they'd put on it, you have to know it's damaged goods at this point. You have to know you have an uphill battle, that you have a dejected fan base, you have ratings and box office revenue that has been declining. And so, are you really going to spend billions of dollars and take that risk on a franchise that might never recover? And yes, if they do sell, I think there is this new optimism around Star Wars initially, potentially. Depending on who buys it and what they say and who they have running it and all that, you're going to have fans that go, well, at least Disney doesn't have it anymore, so hopefully the next one up gets it right. And I do think there's a really good chance whoever would potentially buy it would erase the Disney canon, or at least the sequels, and sort of try over again. They'd want to have their own version of a sequel trilogy, even if you can't bring back all the actors and all that. I think any company that would buy it would obviously understand the sequels are a sticking point, that's what a lot of fans are angry about and why they left. And so if you try that again, and if you get it right, then you have a good, solid place to start from as they try to give us their version of Star Wars. Now, all that said, again, I just don't think Disney ever sells and risks creating that type of competition, especially when their other huge franchise, Marvel, is also struggling. Yes, there is the hope that Secret Wars and the return of Robert Downey Jr. will pump some new life and some new money into the franchise, and it almost certainly will. And I'm not saying the movie might not be a good movie, but it's almost certainly going to be a huge box office smash when all the normies and the casual fans are going to come to see Robert Downey Jr. and the Avengers again. I mean, that is the whole point of bringing him back, basically. But after that, you're in the same boat you're in right now and have been for the past 5 years. The boat of, what do we do with it now? We've been making Marvel movies for 20 years straight, or will have been at that point. How do we go into a third decade of Marvel movies? And I'm not saying they won't come up with something. I'm not saying people won't watch it, but it's kind of getting a little old at this point, isn't it? And mind you, that is a problem with Star Wars too. You can't just keep cranking stuff out and expecting, again, the more normie audience or the casual fan, whatever you want to call them, to just keep going and going and going. The hardcore fans, yeah, they might, as long as it's good, they might keep watching indefinitely. But I do think you need breaks, and Star Wars has had a break on the movie front. It's been 5 years since the Rise of Skywalker. It's going to be another year before the Mando and Grogu movie. So they have, even though it might not feel like it to some hardcore fans, they have had a break. And the Disney Plus shows, I don't know how much they have or will have affected the movies and people's willingness to go see them. I guess we'll find out in about a year. But anyway, to stop myself from rambling, I don't know that Disney actually sells. I could be dead wrong, but I think with Kennedy potentially leaving in the next year and they have this slate of movies they want to push out, I think Disney, at the very least, is going to give it one last hurrah here. They're going to hire someone new to be the president. They're going to cross their fingers and hope that drums up some interest, gets people excited again. They're going to give us a few movies. And if that doesn't work, if 5 years from now we've got 3 new movies and a bunch of Disney Plus shows and box office revenue is still bad and ratings on Disney Plus is still bad, I think they shelve it, they wait a decade, they bring it back, I just don't think they ever actually sell it. All right, and let's move on to a somewhat related question, and it comes to us from Siberian Dream, who asked, Hey Thorpe, I know you're primarily a Star Wars YouTube channel, but do you know why Star Trek, like Star Wars, doesn't hold the same mainstream appeal that it did back in the 1990s? You have admitted to being a Star Trek fan before, and so am I. I remember the days back when those two, Star Trek and Star Wars, weren't just the premier franchises, but the premier rivals. And like Star Wars, I also think Star Trek has hit a huge decline and is failing to gain traction with younger viewers. I would love to hear your opinion. Keep on trucking. And I think you nailed it right in the question. I don't think either one is capturing that younger audience. I don't think they know how to capture that younger audience because it's trickier than ever to capture the new generations coming up. Because, as I've said before, there's just so much to choose from, so much to pick from. You literally have entertainment in the palm of your hand at any given moment, anywhere on the planet that has internet at least. You can watch pretty much anything ever made. You can play any game ever made. You can talk to people. You can do whatever the heck you want. And that just wasn't a reality when things like Star Trek and Star Wars first became popular. And sure, things still get popular today. And you have things like Marvel that has more or less stood the test of time here in the age of the internet. But I think the problem is, and it's a problem I have as well, or not a problem, it's just a reality, but I will watch a fantastic show or a fantastic movie, and I don't necessarily become a fan of it like I may have when I was 6 and saw Return of the Jedi, and just have become a lifelong Star Wars fan because after I saw that movie, I didn't really have anything else to do or watch that was on par with it in any way, shape, or form, unless you went and watched the other Star Wars movies. But nowadays, when you watch something, it is on to the next thing. I will watch a fantastic series, and 5 minutes later, I'm scrolling through Netflix or whatever other streaming service it might be, looking for the next thing I'm going to watch. I just don't think you become obsessed with things like you once did. You don't become a fan of things in the same way you once did when options were so limited. Whereas, again, when I was a kid, after I saw Return of the Jedi, I wanted the action figures. I wanted everything related to it because I had nothing else like it. Years later, when I got it on VHS, I watched it over and over because there still wasn't anything quite like it. Whereas, again, I don't think that it's that kids don't get into things the same way sometimes. I just think they have so many more options and they just tend to watch many things, get into many things, instead of having a select few that they really get into. Okay, and one more here, and it comes to us from Violator, who asked, Hey Thor, is Star Wars really the premier franchise you believe it is anymore, though? You like your sports analogies, but you'll know there are plenty of examples of fading giants in sport, teams that once dominated and are now in a decline. Many of their most devoted fans struggle with the fact that their team isn't winning everything anymore and other teams are taking over. I say this because it might go some ways to understand why a lot of talented people aren't as passionate to prioritize Star Wars now. It isn't the best thing to be offered now, it's just another interesting opportunity, but the days when Star Wars was the Goliath IP are gone now. And yeah, I agree with you. I don't think Star Wars is exactly the premier franchise anymore. But what I've been kind of trying to say is that if you are Kathleen Kennedy, if you are the president of Lucasfilm or whoever the next president might be, you have to treat it like it is. You have to still present it as if it is. And you have to look for people who are going to treat it like it is. I think there has been this strange obsession to chase the top talent. And I get why you want to do that. They have name power. They obviously make good stuff if they are top talent. And so I understand, especially as things decline, as your views and your box office revenue goes down, you chase the big names to hopefully bring that back. We need only again look at Marvel and Robert Downey Jr. to see what I mean by that. But I think, again, if you are the president of Lucasfilm and you're trying to chase this top talent and they're kind of telling you, yeah, I guess I could do a Star Wars movie. I got all these other things I want to do first, but I'll do one eventually. I don't think that's the type of person you want. You want that person who comes to you with a script in hand or a really fleshed out idea already, and they're excited and they're telling you, hey, I will drop everything to do this movie right now. I will divorce my wife. I will disown my kids. I will do whatever it takes to make this the best Star Wars movie possible. That is what you're looking for. Now, maybe not quite to that extreme, but you get my point. You want people who are going to treat you like you are still Star Wars, the premier franchise. You don't want that person who's like, yeah, that's an interesting opportunity to do at some point, and maybe I'll get around to it. I don't really have any ideas, but I'm sure I could come up with something. I've always wanted to make my own little Star Wars movie that doesn't necessarily have to align with all your other stuff, because that's one of the stipulations we've been hearing a lot from this top talent, that they want to come in and just do their own thing. But anyway, my point is simply there are no doubt a lot of people out there who will treat it like a top franchise still, who do just passionately want to make a Star Wars film, who will try to adhere to the lore and make something at the same time that is also a little fresh and new and different. I think those people exist, and for whatever reason, they either aren't coming to Lucasfilm or they're being ignored by Lucasfilm as they continue to chase that top talent. Alright, well that is going to be all I got for you this time. Now it is your turn. Take to the comments below. Tell me what you think about anything and everything I had to say in response to these questions, or answer the questions yourself. Like I said, tell me what you think about Star Wars. Why doesn't it attract the younger people? Do you think Disney would ever sell it? And who would make a good suitor for Star Wars? Who would get it right, do you think? Or you can always ask your question for a future lightning response video. Just start your comment off with "Hey Thor," ask your question, and I'll try to answer it in a future video. But whatever the case may be, leave those comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.